Coin is in a major spot, closing at 284, trying to get that bounce back up after a ton of seller pressure and a lot of pressure facing from Bitcoin and the overall crypto market. So is Coin going to give way and find a continued movement to the downside, or are we going to find that bounce? All right, guys, on the weekly time frame, starting this analysis, we see a few obvious structures here. Firstly, being this cup and handle pattern way back, find that handle, and we kind of flush. We can't get above that, but we do find that rough neckline area, try to hold above it, and get in a really long descending channel. So we're in this channel for a very long time, finally break out of that, and then boom, some nice volatile pressure all the way to 444 with the buyers in that exact control. Nothing really holding them back. Big move out, chopping sideways, big move out, continuing to that spot. So up until then, guys, there was a lot of downwards pressure. IPO'd at 420, try to recover, keep on going downwards, create a cup, not a lot going on, and then we see that final break, really picking up that volatility. But as of recent times, guys, we have seen price act a little bit different. We hit that all-time high, we form a little bit of a small cup, and then we go ahead and continue to the downside, closing and currently at 284. The last few weeks looking pretty bearish, but what we're going to be analyzing today, if we should be getting the bounce, guys, sooner than later, around that 267, which held up as a strong resistance. 1, 2, 3, 4, but finally breaking out of that and having this movement. So should we hold up here? Should that turn into support and start to bounce back up? Or are we going to flush back under that once really harsh resistance? And is that going to turn into resistance, making it even harder for the buyers to go ahead and try to bounce back up? All right, guys, I'll take it to the daily time frame. We see that we were recently in a wedge pattern, a very volatile one. Big spikes up, big spikes down, really no obvious control. We flush that, we get into another little wedge pattern, and we've been really much on the downside, for a bit of time, guys. We're talking about over, last few months, we've really been seeing a ton of downwards pressure pretty much since we hit that 444, sharply decline, gap down hugely, and we can't get an answer, right? We're just chopping around. We really cannot find an answer. We use that 291 for support, and we're trying to get that move back up. We finally find a volatile move, right? Marking that out. We hit around that 393, can't quite get back to that 400. And we wick up at it, but we quickly shut back down. And then we go ahead and form this wedge pattern. So we're chopping back and forth, volatile, big swings up, almost exact correction to the downside. We're moving in the pennant. Somebody has to win, but then we end up flushing, staying in that overall bearish narrative. On the most recent price action, we have seen a bounce, right? We hit that 267, that once really harsh resistance, and then we bounced to 284. But before all of that happened, right, take you guys to the hourly, we did see an obvious break of structure, right? Somebody had to win. We were in this little wedge pennant. We're getting tight, tight, tight. Someone has to win, either squeeze up or squeeze down. And it was an obvious short. We got under that 291, continued downwards, and finally we found that bounce in the overall market. Once again, we press back up, and then we press right at that resistance. So we can't get that full break of resistance. We press right up against it, showing that the bears are still in that overall control, controlling the price action, keeping that resistance in play. So now for the bears, you'd want to see that continued movement to the downside, back testing that 267. And if you're a buyer, you want to see that spot bounce off, getting that double bottom effect, bottom once, bottom twice, continue out, break through this resistance, have some nice bullish momentum for the short term. And for the bears, best case scenario is obviously price comes back down, tries to back test it, does not hold, and we continue to flush downwards, kind of like we've been seeing for a bit of time now. So the big picture on coin is it's in a very crucial spot, I think, to hold. The next point you'd be looking at if 267 flushed would be that 236 roughly. Besides that, guys, there's not a ton really holding this thing back. We've seen historically these two levels be very important. That 236 holding up as support a lot of the times, and that 267 as resistance. But we also see that 267 act as a little bit of support. So these are very interchangeable, and you'd want to see it hold up as some support as we're trending on a pretty tough movement to the downside. All right, guys, I'm taking a look at Bitcoin, as coin most often moves with Bitcoin. So it's a good thing to look at them while we're analyzing coin. Now, right away in the past, guys, we saw we were in this long-term descending bull flag. So we're in this bull flag, very volatile. We finally break out of that. So we reach back to that $100,000 level. So we're reaching back there. We continue up, and this is where we go ahead and find even more all-time highs eventually hitting 126,000. And since then, guys, we've been on recently a pretty sharp movement to the downside, correcting quickly, trying to hold that past 110,000 level, which was a nice support. Also, a pretty tough spot to get above for a bit of time. And we hold there. We hold at that 115,000, flush the 110. And as of recent times, guys, we've been seeing finally movement under that 100,000 level again. Right, that spot holding so good while we were above it for a long time. Right, back testing right here. He's bouncing off that spot once, twice, three times, coming back down, and we are bouncing, right? We're seeing one, two, three, four, five, six candles in a row, really pressing at that spot. But we go ahead, get that bounce, and once again, in this very obvious descending range, and we flush. We end up flushing 100,000, and after flushing a very psychological spot like 100,000, there's just a ton more downwards pressure that's going to come with it if you can't quickly recover. We closed under fully with a very strong red bearish bar, and we've been continuing, guys. We're currently trending at 93,000, but overall, just not great for Bitcoin. We are kind of meeting up right where we did find a little bit of support right around that 93,000. So we could be seeing a little bit of a bounce right here. Definitely a chance, right? That was once some decent support. As after we broke out of this bull flag, we were chopping there for roughly around 2.5, 3 weeks, then continue our movement out. If we can't find the bounce here, you'd be looking around those levels of that psychological 90,000 flat, or even going into that, 85,000, 80,000 range. So I think we're at a very crucial spot for Bitcoin, either turning around here, even attempting a reversal definitely could be seeing, as this spot is pretty historical for a possible bounce. And if we can't get that, guys, could be seeing some continued downwards pressure for Bitcoin. And that'll definitely affect, Bitcoin mining stocks like Coin, MSTR, Riot, Mara, things of that sort. So really important to keep eye on. If we did get a bounce, could influence Coin pretty well, though, opening on Monday, maybe contributing to this move and continued recovery to the upside. But yeah, guys, Bitcoin definitely been facing some pretty strong downwards pressure recently. That's all I got for you guys. In the long term, pretty bullish on coin here. We've been in a very nice movement. I think it's about time we go ahead and retest those all-time highs sooner than later. In the short term, we're neutral, right? We're at a very important spot. I think we can get the bounce, but it's really going to be dependent on the overall market, especially with Bitcoin tanking as much as it's tanking. We'll see how the overall market responds and coin responds in the next day trading, but very crucial spot that we're at. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss an update. Appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. As always, guys, trade smart. I'll see you all in the next one.